Hey everyone, David here with a packed episode 2 of the DarkspiderCast. It's also one that I'm a little, I don't want to say on edge, but a little excited to get through only because I have just so much packed into this week as far as content creation. Some ideas have actually been kind of brimming and coming to the brain here, to the mind, and I'm like, yo, for the first time in a while, I genuinely want to create content. Like, I'm there, in the middle of the night, laying down in my bed, and I'm like, I really want to get to editing or get to recording this particular video, this particular essay, some things that have been popping in my brain, and be like, okay, this is actually different from the usual stuff that I like to make. And I'm like, yes! So great to be here, great to do this episode and get things underway. Also, without, putting it out there too much, because I'm pretty modest when it has to do with these sort of things. Another reason for why I'm excited, I'm eager to get this episode done, but it not only on top of the other content creation materials that I'm trying to kind of bookend recording this episode, whether it be for the niche channel as well as amongst other things, is because of two other things. One of them don't want to spend too much time on, but it is my birthday week. So me and the girlfriend have been kind of spending some time plotting and scheming, but pretty much just organizing, where we're going to be staying at for the weekend. We're not even going to do this big elaborate thing. It was just going to be a couple of nights in LA. The first day we were literally just going to just chill at the hotel room, maybe go out and get ourselves something to eat or something to cook. I don't know. Just, hang out. And then Saturday's my actual birthday. That's the day that we were actually hoping to go and check out the Comic-Con Museum in San Diego. So it's basically an exhibit located at the actual convention, or at least I think it's the convention. No, not the convention center, but like in the general area. It's a specific place that holds the Comic-Con exhibit. But occupying the exhibit right now is actually a special 60th anniversary Spider-Man exhibit to kind of chronicle and commemorate the 60 years of lineage for Spider-Man. And I figured, what other thing? And also, purchasing tickets for that exhibit also covers entry into pretty much the rest of the exhibit. So I was like, yeah, that's definitely something that we can definitely do. Definitely, I'm saying that too much, on Saturday. I figured, that's actually a pretty good thing to do very similarly on Saturday, and then top it off with dinner and, just kind of bring the night to a close. That's all I'll say about that. And then Sunday morning checkout with breakfast, either at the hotel or on the way, something kind of cheap and just kind of out of our way. And then maybe to just kind of top off the weekend, I pitched to my girlfriend, like, on the way home, can we stop by Frankenstein's collectible trade show, which is actually the subject of a video that I'm currently editing right now, hopefully to have up by this weekend. It's a for those of you who are listening in and who have not are not familiar with Frankenstein's a collectible trade show, or have never heard the term before and have yet to watch that video that I'm, like I said, currently editing at the time of this recording. It might already be up by the time you listen to this, I don't know. But basically, it's a warehouse that's pretty much like its own little mini Comic-Con / E3 in some cases. Basically, it's a trade show. You have aisles upon aisles that have different vendors for different things that have to do with collectible pop culture stuff, whether it be for anime, for comic books, movies, TV shows, video games. And there's even a couple of aisles that have to do with sports and some car-related stuff. I think one time I did see a vendor that had like license plates of different states and different versions of cars, and of course little model kits and little like Jada toys, collectible vehicles like on the 1/18th scale, 1/24th scale, etc. So there's a little bit of something for almost everybody that collects something. Can really be found here in droves. And I've already been about twice before. Both me and my girlfriend have been twice. I technically have been 3 times, but the third time technically counts as the second time as well, because it was part of the same weekend. I literally just went back because I wanted to check out more of what was on the floor, because that particular weekend, there was this thing called the Gaming Expo, the SoCal Gaming Expo. And it was a very, tentpole sort of thing. And I wanted to see if there was anything that I may have missed or that was unique to that Sunday that was not going to be apparent on Saturday. So I was still available, so I was like, okay, let me go back myself and check that out. And my girlfriend already knew that I was going back there. So technically, I've been 3 times. She has only been twice. This would be my fourth time, her third time. But also another reason for why she was quick to agree to do that on Sundays because she also wants to look for a gift for one of her best friends, whose birthday also lands towards the tail end of this month. So perfect timing. So that's pretty much our itinerary. It's Friday, just stay in and chill. Saturday, we go and check out that Comic Con exhibit along with the Spider Man exhibit, and then have some kind of exotic, well, not exotic, but like fancy-ish dinner, fancy relatively speaking to us. Maybe we'll do the traditional Buca de Beppo stop like we always do almost every year, and then Sunday top it off with, like I said, a very quick grab and go breakfast. We go to Frankenson's just to kind of peruse the aisles. Shop for either ourselves or for, like, in her case, for her best friend. And then when we are back in town, one as my close friends, my best friends, are offering to treat me to dinner, so we might cap it off with that, and then eventually call it a night and call it a weekend, and that'll be the wraps for that. So clean and easy, digestible weekend for the birthday slash anniversary celebration, because it's also going to be me and my girlfriend's anniversary. I know the timing and the lining up of that may not be, maybe kind of ill suited, but that's just how confident I am. But planning this weekend has been taking up a little bit of me and her time. Like I said, I've been editing stuff for the niche channel, which has been doing pretty decently. Like I said, the Spider-Man Lotus videos, and then most recently, the Hasbro Marvel Legends No Way Home 3-pack video that I did got kind of picked up by the algorithm in ways that I just did not perceive. And because of that, that video is actually doing better than the Lotus videos, than the Lotus essays. I'm like, what the hell's going on? So, yeah, I've been answering comments, taking a look at the comments. If it's worthy of a response, I respond to it. If not, I give it a thumbs up or a heart. But it's just on the hour. I get like 3 or 4 comments, and the video's already like at 30-something thousand views. I'm amazed and thankful, but I just was not expecting. That was a quick video I kind of threw together, and it's already in the tens of thousands of views. So I'm very thankful for that and appreciative that that also has kind of in some ways stemmed off to a different topic, a Marvel Legends related topic for a video essay I might be doing in the future. One that's kind of evergreen, so I'm not in any major hurry to do a video on, but it is kind of being kicked about in the old noggin here. Apart from another essay that is a little time sensitive that I'm starting to script out right now. So, been concocting these ideas. That's what's been taken up this week. The other thing that has been taken up this week is not to the extent of these other things that I just covered, but something that has been, in my list of priorities, is that I technically now have a new job. I really, really do. It's a part-time job. It's starting off a little bit on the slow side because there's no set schedule. Right now, I'm only going in once a week, but the intention is to eventually ramp up, so to speak, production, if you want to call it that, to about to about 2 to 3 times a week. But the pay is good, and basically, it's a video editor job where I create pre-edits and materials so that editors that are higher above me can just have an easier job of having a easier production flow of generating content for different clients and different things. So I don't want to divulge into too much detail. Like I said, I wanted to talk more about the birthday plans as opposed to this new this new eventful thing that happened this week. But yeah, that's one of the major things that has been taken up this week, is that I do have this job, except it's just, like I said, it's starting off at just going into the office once a week. It's about an hour and 10 minutes ish from where I live, but the intent, hopefully by year's end, is to move closer to this job. Me and the girlfriend finally moving into our own place, getting closer to this business, but also just getting away from here, getting away from where we're at here up in the high desert, getting away from our hometown and away from all this bullshit that is just plaguing every aspect of our lives. Every time that we try to do something up here, it's just met with something that's just oh my god, it makes us pull our hair out. Like I've covered already a couple of episodes prior, just for me, for her to go to the store or for me to go to the gym, there's always some kind of bullshit on the way, whether it be someone almost hitting us because they don't know how to drive, or constant police cars, activating their sirens and we have to pull over to the side, or there's some kind of ambulance. I'm like, all right, someone's always getting arrested, someone's always getting hurt. Um, I'm just fed up with it. Fed up with it. So the intent is hopefully by year's end to get closer to this business, move closer to somewhere near LA, near the Pasadena area in Southern California, and just hopefully move on to the next phase. Move on to the next phase of things. But hopefully this is the first small step. I know I'm about to get a little Armstrong here, but the first small step in what could be a giant leap for the next phase of our lives. So wish me luck with that. But yeah, there's been a bit of development there, and I just, like I said, I just wish I just ask for you guys' luck and prayers, I guess you could say, but just, wish me luck and hopefully persevering in this job that I'm so far enjoying. Like I said, I just have to accept that it's going to start off a little slow, but the as my girlfriend likes to say, good things are coming. So we'll see where that goes. And there's one other thing that also is going in the positive direction side of things, but I don't want to talk about it too much because it's still. I literally just opened the email not too long ago. I got an email about something that could be beneficial towards the niche channel and just towards me as a content creator. And we'll just, that's all I'll say. Just let's see where it goes. Let's just see. I want to read the email bit by bit and just see where it goes and what it could provide for my channel and what are the exact rules and what are the exact things that I need to do to make sure that I don't screw this up, basically. Outside of that, though, I just want to not wish, but just say a really quick RIP and condolence to the loss of Olivia Newton-John. That was kind of a shocker to see that. I gotta be honest, I did not know that she was diagnosed with breast cancer a few years back, but apparently she's been battling it for a long time, and finally earlier this week, we lost her. I think she was, 73? So I knew who she was. I knew the the very illustrious career that she had, both as an actress and as a singer. Not the biggest fan of Grease, I gotta be honest. All right, I'm gonna be brutally honest. I've never been a huge fan of that movie at all. I never gravitated towards it. It could be a musical thing, but then again, I love La La Land, so that's a musical that was able to break ground for me. So it just depends on how it's met with me, with my expectations, with my reception. And I remember watching Grease and just cringing all the way across. I enjoy more the parodies and the memes that have developed from Grease, or better yet, and I know that this may not be the most well-timed thing to talk about here, but one of my favorite things about Grease is not so much the movie as it is the fan theory centering around Grease. Spoilers for Grease in case you have not seen the movie, but basically one of my favorite film theories ever out there, which is weird. It's around a movie that I don't really like, but it's around Grease, and the fan theory is that her character. God, I can't even remember her name. I'm sorry. I can't remember either John Travolta or Olivia and John's characters' names. I'm sorry. That's just how much I don't like Grease. But what I do like is the fan theory that she is actually dead the whole time. Her character. At the beginning of the movie, she's actually drowning, and it's John Travolta's character who rescues her, and she can't stop thinking about him, and that's how our movie progresses. The fan theory is that she actually did drown, and the rest of the movie is one giant fantasy, and that would make sense for the ending, to have her drive off with John Travolta into the sky, and that's why the car goes up into the sky, because that's actually her ascending to heaven, and the whole movie was just a fantasy in limbo. That's the theory, and I'm like, ooh, that's actually poignant and an interesting fan theory. It's right up there with obviously a movie that I do love, The Dark Knight, where the theory for that movie is that the Joker is army vet, and because of the constant analogies he uses for dynamite, gunpowder, truck full of soldiers, things like that I love to like ponder as a film fanatic and cinephile. So yeah, that's I like that stuff more from Greece, whether it be the memes or the fan theories, most of all. But I cannot, disregard the how prolific Olivia Newton-John was. So R.I.P. to her. Condolences to friends and family because that was a bit of a shocker to see that. I don't know. I don't want to say out of nowhere because, like I said, she was battling cancer, but it was just something that you just don't open Twitter to and expect. Oh, you know what I'm saying? Like, I am getting to the threshold where certain actors and actresses, I am expecting one of these days, one of these upcoming days, to open Twitter and be like, "Yep, they're gone," and I'm like, "Yep, they were in their 80s and 90s." Yeah, I don't want to say specific names, but there's certain, like I said, faces that I have in my brain right now that I look at and go, yeah, I'm not gonna be shocked if sometime this week I open Twitter and there they are, R.I.P. Olivia Newton-John, however, was not one of them, so that's why I'm like, that was actually kind of a surprise, regardless of how I feel about that movie. The only other quick thing that I do want to talk about here in the intro before I move on to our topics at hand is also, for the first time in a really long time, I am excited for a Star Wars property. And that is Andor, because I finally checked out the trailer for Andor. That actually looks legit. We got a much full trailer for the show, which it's funny because it was kind of a bittersweet piece of news. It's also interesting to see how much fluctuation is really happening with a lot of Disney Plus related stuff right now, whether it be with Marvel or Star Wars. Because originally, like I covered on a couple of episodes back, or last week's episode, She-Hulk got pushed only by a day from Wednesday the 17th of this month to Thursday the 18th, which is quite literally next week. So I don't know what the flux was or the reason for why they pushed it by a day. I don't know. I legitimately don't know. I don't get it when companies push movies or shows by like a day. I'm like, okay. Uh, a week or two, maybe even a month makes a bit more sense as far as just scheduling. Kind of like how they did with Star Wars Andor. Because with the release of this trailer that showcased a little bit more of what the tone is going to be, what the plot is going to be, which genuinely excites me because not only does this show look a little bit more visually stimulating, and one of the reasons why is becoming a bit more apparent, especially with a bit more of how certain movies and shows are utilizing this technology, and it's becoming a bit more obvious the more frequented it's used, and that is the volume. So some time ago, it was released or it was revealed that Andor is going to be the first Disney Plus Star Wars show to not be shot with the volume. The volume is pretty much this 360 developed kind of. It's kind of like a glorified AR environment with different screens and panels that kind of use motion tracking so that whenever the camera moves, the stuff that's projected in that screen moves with the camera and with the character, so it looks like an actual background that's moving in real time. It almost kind of reminds me of rear projection back in the 1920s, 30s, and 40s, except obviously back then they would have to keep the camera static because if you move, then you'll be able to tell that it's a screen behind them. Here, it's pretty much the same principle, except they're utilizing technology so that whenever the camera does move or the characters move, it moves in tangent with those objects. And so far, both seasons of The Mandalorian and Book of Boba Fett and Obi-Wan were all shot using the volume. Originally, that was cool for Season 1 Mandalorian, but I started to notice it a little bit more with Obi-Wan and Season 2 of Mandalorian, where I'm like, yeah, every time that they would have a scene where corners of the frame were very blurred out because they're using like a specific lens to kind of try to focus things in the middle and not make the background so obvious. That's where I'm like, yeah, this is because it's starting to become a little noticeable. It's not like obvious green screen, but it's just for someone who's aware what the volume is, it's becoming apparent. And then most recently, it was revealed that an awful lot of the Batman, the Matt Reeves, Robert Pattinson Batman movie, was shot on the volume. And it's funny, it's one of those placebo kind of things, or one of those Mandalorian Mandela effect sort of things. Mandalorian effect. But basically, it's one of those things where once someone tells you, then you start picking it out. It's like when someone tells you what they use to cook something, and then finally you taste it, even though you already ate it, and if they hadn't told you, you wouldn't have realized it. It's one of those situations, because now, with the reveal that a good assortment of the Batman was shot in the volume, now when I see certain scenes from the Batman, I can kind of tell. It's not like super obvious. I can only tell because I'm looking out for it. You know what I'm saying? Like any common moviegoer, like my girlfriend or a couple of my friends, they might not notice it. But me, now I'm able to pick apart certain scenes where I'm like, yeah, the background is super blurred out in a way that I can tell that the lens wouldn't be blurring it out that way, and they're doing it that way to mask as much of the volume as possible, but to make sure that the technology is still tracking the characters and the objects. All right. Andor is finally going to forgo this. It's finally going to get rid of the volume. They're shooting it on location. And even from this new trailer, I can tell they're shooting on location, and it looks very rustic. It looks lived in. You know what I'm saying? And combine that with the cinematography and also with the subject matter, which feels very political thriller. I've said this before, and honestly, I'm going to keep saying it even after watching this trailer. It makes me feel like this could be like the Star Wars House of Cards, and that excites me. In terms of tone, because remember how those first 2 or 3 seasons of House of Cards felt, as far as the intrigue, the political, the thriller-ish kind of thing of like, ooh, what's gonna go down in terms of, the battle of the wits and who's gonna outsmart who. The Andor could possibly be that, and also tell the story of how cutthroat Cassian Andor got leading up to his involvement in Rogue One. I could see that happening, especially involving characters like Stellan Skarsgård's character, who looks like he's flip-flopping back and forth between being in cahoots with the Empire, and then maybe with the rebels, maybe feeding information on both sides. You see him talking with some people that are part of the Republic, or formerly the Republic, that are now part of the Empire, in like their nice dressed, suits, and talking to the people, drinking wine or whatever. But then you have scenes of him where he has shorter hair and he's talking to Saw Gerrera, who's Forrest Whitaker's character. So I'm like, yeah, this is interesting. This is captivating. And I'm hoping that they can harness that and make that one of the captivating aspects of Andor. So I'm looking forward to it. Unfortunately, we're going to have to wait an extra month, because along with this trailer, they also pushed the show from August 31st to September 20th or September 21st. However, they sweetened the deal by having the premiere be a whopping 3 episodes, which makes sense because the whole season's going to be 12 episodes. So the first 3 episodes at the gate, so we only that's already what is that? Yeah, is that a quarter? Yeah, that's a quarter of the season right there on day 1. And also, it will give us some time to breathe from She-Hulk, because this is exactly what happened with Obi-Wan and with Ms. Marvel. When Ms. Marvel and Obi-Wan were both overlapping with one another, and for multiple weeks, me and the girlfriend were like, oh, we gotta watch Obi-Wan and we gotta watch Ms. Marvel. Not necessarily because we want to watch them back to back, but because we just don't want to go on social media and deal with fucking spoilers. Thankfully, now we don't have to take up too much of our time binging episodes back to back. Now we can just watch She-Hulk, get through that show, and then hopefully by the time that wraps, it's Andor time. And I'm like, perfect, thank you. No more of those overlaps, because that was exhausting. And when you also take into the quality that we were dealt with Obi-Wan, and then with the last couple of episodes of Ms. Marvel that sadly did not meet our expectations, or at least mine, then that's where it truly becomes a bit of a chore to keep up with some of these shows. So it's a good thing that we're spacing it out with She-Hulk and with Andor. Thank you, Disney Plus. Don't do the overlapping thing again, and hopefully Andor will be cool. So, what I've been playing. So, last week I mentioned that I had started a little game called Nobody Saves the World that was part of Game Pass. It was actually a 2022 release, so it was something that was kind of on the list, and I thought to myself, all right, let me try it. And I mentioned in an anecdote last week that the artwork kind of I don't want to say turned me off, but I just wasn't really seeing the appeal, and it wasn't until I started it up that I saw that Drinkbox Studios logo, looked it up, and found out it was made by the Guacamelee team. And that's where I was like, yeah, okay, this could actually be a banger. And I mentioned that for a while it really was. It was fun, it was intuitive, it was cool to use all these powers, going through the way it was kind of tying certain quests to leveling up, gaining XP, gaining points to make your forms better, despite being a quote unquote nobody. But I did leave things on a slightly ominous note last week when I was talking about this game because I mentioned that it was starting to become a little grindy, a little repetitive. Well, here's the thing. I have beaten Nobody Saves the World since then. I actually beat it a couple of days ago, so it's actually been a little while, enough time for me to have marinated on how exactly I feel about the game. And frankly, I still think that it's one of the most overlooked and underrated gems of the year so far. And anybody who is a member of Game Pass should check it out. Or if it's ever on a worthwhile sale, it doesn't even have to be a heavy sale. It could be like an easy $5 or $6 off other platforms, whether it be PlayStation, PC, or Switch. In fact, this would be ripe for Switch because it's top down, it's low lift. The Switch can handle it. There's no real compromises there. But that's just it. When I said that here's the thing. I said not a heavy sale, but a sale nonetheless. It's because that slight complaint that I did have last week still continues. It doesn't really alleviate itself, even after rolling credits, that it does get a little grindy towards the back half, where certain quests could still be fun. It could still be kind of, you still have your cool badass moments of executing the right magic move or melee move, or something that executes blunt damage or sharp damage, and you just see like 4 or 5 enemies just get wiped out all at once on the map, and you're like, yes, that felt awesome. But likewise, there's instances where there's too many enemies, and I'm just thinking to myself, okay, there was no way I was gonna make my out of that alive, regardless of what form I had. And the game is ultimately telling you, hey, you're just gonna have to come back when you're leveled up, or just keep doing this dungeon, keep doing this map, keep doing this section over and over, because thankfully XP and certain rewards like money, XP, and accumulating certain milestones that are required to complete quests still count even when you die. You just have to go back. You'll just get respawned to the last checkpoint, the last save point. That's this like little purple stone. So you might have to like retread certain ground as far as actual movement. But hey, guess what? There's actually a quest that you can buy that's infinite, and it pretty much rewards you free XP every time that you accumulate a certain amount of feet that you move. There you go. That's what I'm talking about, is that the game rewards you for some really mundane stuff, and that's one of the bigger strengths about the game. But nevertheless, it still doesn't placate or minimize the other complaint that I had, is that it does get slightly grindy here towards the end, regardless of me being able to unlock pretty much all the forms, being able to level them up to like C, B, or even A rating. I think there were only like 2 or 3 that I managed to level up to S rating. And it's cool to have the little achievement sound effect kind of go off and let me know how well I'm doing in the game. But like I said, the main crux of the game is that it does get slightly repetitive and grindy with some of these dungeons, especially when some of them are a little procedurally generated, which I learned very late towards the end of the game here. Not all dungeons, I want to say almost all the dungeons that are story-based are static and standard, and they're the same every time that you enter them, but a couple of the optional ones on the side are the ones that get readjusted and procedurally generated. So every time that you enter, there's gonna be different enemies placed in different spots and different rooms whenever you kind of navigate through them. So memorizing them might not be the most effective thing, but overall, though, I still had an awful lot of fun. And funny enough, the game does something at the end during the final battle that I was a little mixed on. I was literally half and half. Like, on the one hand, I was kind of grateful because it takes a little bit of levity off of the grindiness, but at the same time, it kind of undermines some of the grindiness that I did willingly for some of the side quests that I thought were kind of fun and were slightly quirky in tone and had a little bit of a narrative story built into them. Like, there's one in particular that has a character that was turned into a fish, and so you have to try and gather a cure, and it was kind of fun seeing the back and forth of what's going to happen with that little quest. Certain explorative things that I had agency on and decided upon myself to go and do, the game then goes, well, you didn't really have to do that, because here, we're going to give you this extra helping hand in the final battle that I was just not expecting. And because of that, I was like, well, then that means I could have tackled this probably much sooner. It's just that I got the impression that I needed to grind out. and it ended up not being the case. So a little bit of balance would have been favored here towards the end. It really is towards the end where I have my two major issues. So, the grindiness and a little bit of balance when it comes to how that final battle is really going to play out. Which, like I said, I'm mixed on. I'm both positive and negative on. Like, on the one hand, I like this aspect of it kind of taking a little bit of the stress off, and then another part of me that I was like, well, that was a reason for why I was doing the extra work, You got to make it feel rewarding slightly. But I guess rolling credits and seeing it all the way to the very end was one of those things, and I breathed a sigh of relief going to bed, knowing that I had beaten this game, and despite the little issues that I had, I thoroughly did enjoy Nobody Saves the World. So if you guys have Game Pass, check it out, or if you ever see it on a sale, it doesn't even have to be a heavy sale. So I'll say it's still worth it, even a couple of bucks off. If it's like, I don't know what the MSRP is, but if it's like $4, $5, $6 off, I still recommend that you check it out. And then the other, oh my god, I started one other game. I'm literally only 2 hours in, which is enough. It's most definitely enough. Not only because I hear it's a pretty short game, I hear it takes only like 5 or 6 hours to beat, but also because of the subject matter it's dealing with here, that I'll have to tread lightly when talking about this game. Is another Game Pass game that I had to that was on my list out of sheer morbid curiosity, but it was also not a game that I was in any hurry to get to up until they recently revealed it was going to be removed on August 15th. So when they announced this, I thought to myself, all right, before the vacation weekend that I mentioned at the beginning of this episode, I have a few days. If I get Nobody Saves the World beaten early enough, I'll try to get this game whittled out, especially knowing ahead of time how short it is. So I started it up a couple of hours, and I'm talking about a game that's titled, literally titled, if you don't believe me, please do. It's called Boyfriend Dungeon. You may or may not have heard of it. It may have circulated the news about a game called Boyfriend Dungeon. And basically what it is, it's on Game Pass right now up until the 15th. After that, it's going to get removed, but it's still available on all platforms. And it's basically a dating simulator with some visual novel elements, like whenever you talk to characters, a drawing of the character just appears, and sometimes you hear dialogue, sometimes you don't. I don't know why they do that. Like sometimes they'll read out voice lines, and then other times you have to read the bottom, and ever so often it'll just go, oh yeah, like that, and then that's it. And I'm like, what? Like, was it a budget thing? They didn't have enough time to pay the actress a full day? I don't get it. But basically, it's a dating simulator and a dungeon crawler, which is why it's called Boyfriend Dungeon. I don't know why it's called Boyfriend Dungeon, because technically you could date boys and girls, regardless of what gender or your character is, or what pronouns you decide to use, which is cool. It's representative. I like that, but. And like I said, I have to tread carefully here, and I almost choked on my own spit. But let's just say that upon the first couple of hours, as far as dialogue and the way that my character is saying certain things, because at times you are able to choose your own dialogue, it's just that the options I'm given and what my character is supposed to be saying feels like it was still written ahead of time with a particular angle. An angle that I'm like, well, I don't want to say that, but the game's making me seem like there's just this, I really don't want to use the word agenda, but there's just like I feel like this game is being written by someone who's been in a situation. You know what I'm saying? And there's really great ways to write, both in movies, games, TV shows, to take experiences like that, personal experiences, and write them into some kind of creative work, especially in video games. I would probably say out of all the mediums, the video games is the best one. This one, I just felt like right out of the gate, like literally 10, 15 minutes into the fucking game, it's already pushing some dialogue choices on me that I'm like, I don't want to say that, but yet the game's making me say it, kind of. Like, all the options make me sound a little douchey only because I'm trying to be, I don't know, like, and multiple times the game is just like talking to me in a way where, like I said, I just feel like it's being written by someone who's been somewhere, who's been in a situation, and that's the only thing that they're kind of thinking of. And it's not at all subtle about it. That's all I'll say. Like, it's just not subtle about it. Now, thankfully, uh, a little bit of that gets uh, softened up once we get into the actual dungeon crawling aspect of the game. Because up until that point, it was very tough to take a little bit of the dating part seriously because, like I said, it just doesn't feel natural. It feels like it's being written from a certain angle, from a certain viewpoint. And because of that, it just didn't feel all that authentic, all that natural. The dating aspect of it all, where I'm like, all right, I feel like things are being written a specific way because they saw it in a specific light. But that's just me. That's just my viewpoint. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm not saying it's definitive. That's just how it seems to me. Once we got to the actual dungeon crawler, which right now only a couple of hours in, I'm only in one dungeon, which is the mall. And you have to like kill these monsters that are manifestations of your fears. See, I'm starting to touch on it right there. I really want to just move on because I don't want to, it's very tough to really voice my opinion on something like this because I know where we're at as far as social climate. I'm like, you know what, let's just move on. I'm not gonna poke that bear. But I will admit that the actual dungeon crawling aspect of the gameplay, as far as like light attacks, heavy attacks, dodging, I'm like, all right, it's not bad. It's a nice little isometric dungeon crawler. Died a number of times, but thankfully you get to keep the XP. So in a matter of speaking, just like the game I just mentioned, Nobody Saves the World, you can kind of grind it out with different swords. Who you choose as your sword, however, also plays a little bit into the storytelling narrative. Aside from that, though, I'm not gonna lie. There were times throughout these opening hours that I was like, "Am I? It might be. I might have to. I might be cool just playing something else right now." But if it was longer, I would probably have taken that approach and just raged quit. Because honestly, that's how I was feeling. Knowing, however, that it's only about 5 or 6 hours, I'm gonna definitely try to play a little bit more before I take off for the weekend. Gets removed on the 15th. I thought to myself, okay, the 15th is Monday. I got until Sunday night. I'm going to be gone for the majority of the weekend, but Sunday night for sure I'll be home. I'll be home a little early because my girlfriend has to open the next day. So I was like, all right, I will definitely have like a 2 or 3-ish block amount of time Sunday night. I could probably wrap it up then. And so it's doable. It's plausible. Let me at least try. And it's technically free because it's part of Game Pass. But man, oh man, I can promise you guys right now, if it wasn't for Game Pass, I probably would have never played this thing. I'll keep you guys updated on what the final result is on next week's episode. One of the gaming-related events that happened in this past week was actually EVO. EVO finally made a comeback. Apparently, it's been kind of like a virtual thing for a couple of years, unfortunately due to the pandemic. And this year marked the first time that it was a public event. It was, live streamed all across the board. And first of all, I want to give a huge kudos, a huge appreciation post and salute to pretty much everybody in attendance. And the reason why is because I don't think I saw a single bare mouth or nose at this goddamn thing. I didn't. I was genuinely surprised. I'm sorry. This might sound a little arrogant, but for a building full of ginormous nerds, and I'm one of them. I'm not saying that as a derogatory term. I'm, as a compliment. That's just like a attribution. For a room, a giant stadium-sized room like that, full of nerds and video game geeks and gamers and esports players, they all took COVID super seriously. I did not see a single person who was not wearing a mask. And like I said, I'm not being sarcastic. I'm legitimately like, yo, appreciate it, guys. Like that's an actual event that I would not, if that's going to be how it's taken seriously, then who knows where we'll be in a year. But I'm not ruling out the possibility that I might just go just for fun. I don't know, wherever it's at, which I think it's in Tokyo. They announced towards the end of the show, so that might be a problem. Logistically and money-wise, I just don't see that being terribly feasible for next year, because priority number one's gonna have to be staying afloat in hopefully me and the girlfriend's new apartment. So we'll see where that goes. But anyways, I saw not all of it obviously, because this is like a 2-day event and they're streaming and doing tournaments all throughout the entirety of the weekend. But I did manage to catch a good wind of Evo this year, more than I ever done before, because before I would only watch like clips and highlights and montages, some of them in a serious way and then others in a slightly satirical way. Very reminiscent of Kroby Cat's videos. If you guys don't know who he is on YouTube, YouTube user Kroby Cat made a couple of videos that were kind of satirizing and making fun of the fighting game community, and every so often he would use clips from Evo that, when taken out of context, yeah, they were pretty hilarious. Not gonna lie. But this time I did watch it through Maximilian Dude's live streams on Twitch and Jeremy, aka Gamer2323's streams on Twitch. And overall, I actually kind of enjoyed myself. I enjoyed the atmosphere, the commentary, the way it was treated like pretty much a sports event. Like, this is pretty much the Super Bowl of the fighting game community, and the way that it's looked at it from a much more introspective look, as opposed to just being like, oh, just smashing buttons and hitting each other. Like, there was more like of an analytical breakdown, and what exactly works towards being a good fighter, how exhaustive things could be, especially the way that some of these players are just playing continuously, especially when they enter multiple games, they enter multiple tournaments, and so they're gaming for like 6 or 7 hours throughout the day. And I'm like, I can't even, especially a fighting game. Because as much as I like fighting games, once I start hitting hour 3 is where I'm like, all right, I'm done. Because, like, it's a fighting game. You're, by definition, by technicality, you're doing the same thing over and over. Just matches, you know what I'm saying? So I was like, these guys going for 7 or 8 hours, sure, they might be taking breaks, drinking water, stretching, but I just don't see myself doing it. So don't underestimate the work that they put in, especially with how many of them are probably going to end up with carpal tunnel. And again, I'm not saying that as a jab. I'm just saying that like as a thing that they should probably just take caution of. But overall, I just really appreciated what they did. Of course, you had the usual suspects in there, like Fighters, Tekken 7, Street Fighter 5, etc. And I managed to, like I said, watch a couple of them. I saw a little bit of Guilty Gear Strive, but not too much. Very surprised to see just how quickly pretty much all of Evo adapted multiversus. The way that they just embraced this game, considering just how relatively new it is. I was like, God damn, like multiversus is here. And plus, there was a very large Smash-sized hole left by Ultimate and Nintendo, and even Melee, even though Melee was removed from Evo, I think, a couple of years back. Finally, them getting rid of Ultimate, considering the controversy and all that stuff that was happening with that community. There was some kind of hunger for a platform fighter, and multiversus fit it perfectly. Because it's actually well-made platform fighter. Like, everyone that has played it, even naysayers like Jeremy Gamer2323 himself, who was very dubious about the game, was like, he did his trademark, hey, hold on. And I'm like, yep, I think we got him, boys. And it looks like the game got the majority of the fighting game community as well. And watching the tournaments, going down to the grand finals, I was like, yeah, there's definitely an analytical way to process exactly what makes a good versus bad / spammy multiversus a fighter, a player. And it'll be interesting to see going forward how a game like Multiverse is going to factor into the fighting game community, from both a very goofy, casual way of just playing the game with friends, or on a competitive level where it could be put into tournaments where the pool is $10, $50, $100,000 for a game where you have Shaggy fighting Batman and Arya Stark and Iron Giant. And God only knows who else they might be adding to the roster. Despite the delay, we got Rick and Morty coming up. Who knows? There's rumors and leaks about Kong and Godzilla joining the fray. Right now, my dream character, if I had to pick, Neo from The Matrix. It's Warner Brothers. How can they not? He's fucking perfect. How can they not put Neo in there? Please, Warner Brothers, do it. And don't give us Resurrections Neo. Give us Reloaded Neo with the outfit, the glasses, having some kind of reflective down B kind of move where he's able to absorb bullets or projectiles and toss them back or drop them to the ground. He's got some kind of smash attacks, with his with the pole that he uses in the Burly Brawl of Reloaded. Freeze framing in the middle of nowhere, so he's able to kind of telegraph moves, etc. He's perfect. I'm already calling the moves right now, and I hardly ever do that, so he would be perfect for the game. And Evo is also known to have a fair share of reveals, and one of them was frustratingly for the next Tekken game. That's all that we can really say. The next Tekken game, because I was actually watching this live through Jeremy's Gamer23's live stream, because it was the tail end of the top 8 for Tekken, the Tekken tournament. They had done the ceremony for the winners, and then the woman hosting was like, "Is today a good day to be a Tekken fan?" And everybody started to get hyped, and I was like, "Okay, let's see what they show." Because here's the thing: I'm not gonna pretend to say that this was a letdown, because I'm not that big of a fan for Tekken that kind of way. I know a lot of people in the fighting game community are, which is a little strange because a lot of people love Tekken. I played Tekken 7. I didn't really play too many of the entries. I've dabbled here and there, especially in the arcade. Tekken 7 was like the first full game that I stuck with, trying to get through the campaign, try the different modes, try out every character. And there's just something about the style I just don't really like. I can't really gravitate towards. So, I didn't really have too much of a stake in whether or not they were going to unveil a new Tekken, in what capacity. But even with that personal bias, I just thought that this was a very cock-teasy sort of trolling sort of tease that I'm like, you might as well not have shown anything, or at least tweeted some kind of screen grab instead of waiting until Evo out of all events to showcase this. And basically, after revealing that there was going to be a content update for Tekken 7 years after the game originally had come out, back in 2016, 2017, something like that, we get this small little clip of Kazuya from the very first Tekken with the old school graphics, the triangle polygons, the dainty music, all that stuff. It's just it just it reminds me of the simpler times. But it plays this clip. He looks at the camera, and then the screen wipes to show him still looking at the camera, but it's very much him in today's modern graphics, more than likely using the Unreal Engine. And it's with a little text saying, "Get ready." And that's it. That is it. Nothing else. There's no 8. There's literally nothing. And everybody in the room just goes crazy. And I'm over here going, even if I was a Tekken fan like that, I would be kind of upset more than anything. Because it's not, I'm not saying it has to come out this year. I just want some clarity. I don't expect it to come out this year at all. I'm definitely expecting this next Tekken project to be a 2023 thing. But you couldn't just clarify instead of just teasing some more? I don't know. Maybe something is being planned here for Gamescom. A lot of people are speculating that maybe by the time the Game Awards roll out in December, we'll learn something, because Jeff Keighley, through the Game Awards Twitter account, retweeted this, or tweeted the screen grab one more time saying, "Get ready, #Tekken," or something like that. I gotta be honest, if someone were to ask me straightforward, no ifs or buts about it, what is this? Is this 8 or what is this? I would actually say, I don't think it's 8. I think it's actually a remake of 1. Unless they're trying to tie it back to the original legacy of the first one or something like that through this new entry, which personally, if I remember enough of the main story from 7, I think, without going into spoilers, let's just say that the stuff that had to do with Kazuya and his bloodline with Heihachi and other members of his family, I feel like there's a different power player that I think should be the main focus of 8. If there was an 8, it shouldn't be Kazuya, if that makes any kind of sense. So the fact that this tease literally shows Tekken 1 and then a little beam of light wiping it away to then show Kazuya in brand new 9th gen graphics with the Unreal Engine, that to me screams remake. There's something about the presentation that I'm like, this is this feels more like a remake than anything else. But that's just my 2 cents, nothing more that I can really disclose, nothing more than almost anybody else can disclose except Harada, the director. So we're just going to have to wait and see if maybe there's something in store for us either through Gamescom later at the end of this month or at the Game Awards. Later on in the event, we got some more Street Fighter V action, and with it, a new trailer for Street Fighter VI that showcased 2 more characters. One of them is a brand new character named Kimberly. She looks kind of cool, brand new to the fray. She looks pretty nimble. She kind of reminds me like a combination of Elena and a little bit of Chun-Li in there, but you definitely feel like there's a uniqueness to her playstyle. But then we get a Street Fighter veteran right after her, Juri, with her brand new design, the way that she looks in this brand new engine with a slightly realistic look, and she looks cool, and I'm not gonna lie, she is actually one of my mains, primarily because, like I just mentioned, she kind of reminds me a little bit of Chun-Li, as far as the nimble moveset, the quickness, the speed, and amongst other things. But overall, yeah, I'm liking what I'm seeing so far with Street Fighter 6, but right now I feel like it's just gonna be character reveals until probably we get closer to the back half or tail end of this year, once we get a much more proper gameplay deep dive, a trailer maybe showcasing a little bit more of the story mode or arcade modes or the different kinds of modes, and maybe probably a actual release date or release window. Right now we're simply still just getting 2023. And there's not much that I can really disclose on these Street Fighter or Tekken trailers because, again, I'm not Maximilian Dude. Maximilian Dude goes through, like, every fucking frame, detail by detail. I don't do that. At least for this, maybe for, like, Gotham Knights or the next Spider-Man game. For sure, I'll do that. It'll probably just be a video, and I'll probably barely even talk about it in podcast form. But from what I saw in these 2 trailers, like I said, there's a decent amount to speculate over the Tekken 1. But as far as the Juri and Kimberly trailers, they look neat. They look cool characters to play as, and everything that I'm seeing about Street Fighter 6 so far has been dope, but I'm getting a little ready to kind of take a break from the character trailers and actually go into more modes stuff, gameplay stuff, but I know that that's probably not going to happen until maybe best case scenario September, if there is some kind of rumored PlayStation showcase, because the last couple of years, PlayStation has done a showcase in September. That's when we got our PlayStation 5 reveal, and pre-orders went live for the PS5. So maybe in September we'll get a new showcase, and during that showcase, since it's an exclusive, or no, I don't think it's an exclusive, but even though it's not exclusive and it's coming to Xbox, it's always been favored by PlayStation, so I feel like they might save something for that showcase to talk about the modes and the gameplay, and I feel like maybe then we'll get some more deep dives into Street Fighter 6, maybe even a release window. A lot of people, Max himself included, are speculating that maybe in Q1 we'll get this game, because that's traditionally when Street Fighter games like to come out, somewhere in like February or March. So we shall see, but that was pretty much my key takeaways from EVO, and it was a fun time. Couple of video game news stories here, apart from the stuff that was announced at EVO, and oh man, we got another casualty, guys. Another one that I legitimately was not, well, you know what, I take it back. For a little while, I was not expecting this one, up until we entered this new month of August. And the less we saw gameplay and just more cutscenes, and entering August, I was like, yeah, things are not looking like it's just the most optimistic. And finally, we got a headline. Marvel's Midnight Suns has been delayed indefinitely with no date. And because there's no date, and considering that its original release date was going to be October 7th, I think we're all pretty safe to assume that this is not releasing in 2022. Like, it's more than likely being pushed out into 2023, probably at least maybe the first opening quarter. One can only speculate right now. But basically, this is the IGN article, which is likely going to be using also a post here from the developers, or using some quotes here. So the IGN article by Rebecca Valentine reads, Marvel's Midnight Suns has been delayed a second time, and while it doesn't seem to be a long delay, we're now once again without a clear release date for the Firaxis tactical RPG. In today's Take-Two earnings results, from when this was published back on August 8th, the publisher revealed that it has moved back the launch of Marvel's Midnight Suns to ensure the teams at Firaxis Games and 2K deliver the best possible experience for our fans. It's expected to arrive later this fiscal year, which is why I said possibly Q1 2023, because technically, as it reads right here, which for Take-Two means sometime before March of 2023. But we don't have a specific date yet. Additionally, only the PC, PS4, and Xbox Series X and S players will get to jump in on that day. Oh, I think that was a typo. PS5, I remember reading this from the Marvel Midnight Suns official Twitter, saying that this initial release is only going to be for PS5, Xbox Series, so X and S, and PC users. If you are a PS4, Xbox One, or Switch player, you might have to wait even later. They said that it's going to be an even later date than that. So that's pretty much all the information coming from this article predominantly. Midnight Suns was originally planned for Take-Two's previous fiscal year with a scheduled release date this past March, but it was delayed once already, pushing it into October of this year. At the time, it was implied that the delay was at least in part connected to its increases in the difficulty of making games as technology has improved. Speaking to Take-Two CEO Strauss Zelnick, he reiterated that this second delay was due to a search for quality and a great deal of confidence that we have a wonderful title on our hands, and we want to make sure it's as good as it could possibly be. So, bit of a bummer, and actually I'm going to skip ahead towards the end here because I think it's about to jump back into relevancy somewhat. Midnight Suns was first revealed almost a year ago at Gamescom 2021 as a superpowered version of XCOM featuring characters like Captain Marvel, Iron Man, and Wolverine. The reason why I wanted to kind of mention this ending part of the article is because we do have yet another Gamescom event here towards the tail end of August 2022. That's why it says almost a year ago. So I feel like maybe that we'll get some more gameplay deep dives into Midnight Suns, but seeing it get delayed into later this fiscal year, which, as this article points out, technically wraps in March 2023, I'd say that's probably where we're going to get this game, either February or March of 2023. I don't really see it coming out any earlier than that, because delaying it without giving us a date, like if they were going to delay it with a date, it probably would still be 2022, which in that reality would just be them saying November something, December something. Obviously, you're not going to want to release your game anywhere close to Christmas. If you're going to release a game like this with a name brand like Marvel in December, it's going to be that opening week of December, kind of like Callisto Protocol is. Past that point, like Far Cry games I've done in the past, developers don't like to release games around that time period. So at that point, you might as well push it into the opening months of the new year, 2023, whether it be in January, February, or March. And the end of the fiscal year being in March, it's like, yeah, it's going to be sometime in that first opening quarter. I'm just going to, as soon as I saw this, I immediately went to my Google Keeps list and deleted Marvel Midnight Suns off of my 2022 games to play, because I just knew that it wasn't going to come out this year. They said later this fiscal year, but I'm willing to bet money that it's not going to be this year. It's going to be quarter one of 2023, February or March at the likeliest. And then a second piece of news here that is also very skeptical and just makes me nod my head. 6 years after its announcement, this is the article from IGN, 6 years after its announcement, or official announcement, it's technically been in development for like 13 years, but officially announced 6 years ago, Beyond Good and Evil 2 hires its lead writer. After being announced all these years later, you're barely getting the lead writer. Like, how is that a thing? How can that possibly happen? But the article reads, it's been several years since Beyond Good and Evil 2 was officially announced. After a lack of news for quite some time, there's finally been a new development for the long-awaited game. They've hired their lead writer. Even the article kind of frames it in a way where it's like, what the hell? Like, why are we barely even getting these roles filled in this late in the game? It's like, okay, when is this? It's at the point where, should this thing even come out? Should it even be canceled? And the reason why I'm kind of speaking with some slight skin in the game is because I want to say it was around 2017, 2018, still on the PS4, through a port, that I finally played the original Beyond Good and Evil and actually kind of liked it. It actually got me somewhat excited for a sequel, and so there's a little bit of investment there. So to see it being kind of just dragged here all along by Ubisoft or whoever's in charge of this game, because I know Ubisoft it was at one point being handled by, and now I think it's like switching teams. I don't know. But I'm going to continue reading a little bit more of the article here. In a tweet yesterday, Sarah Arellano announced that she was joining as the game's lead writer. Arellano previously worked as a narrative designer for Blizzard on World of Warcraft and at Volition, the studio responsible for Saints Row. So she pretty much did like a tweet with a screen grab where it says, "It's my turn to do the thing." And there's a trend amongst video game developers where they screen grab them going into their Twitter profile and changing their description to fit their new role, to put in their new role in there. So if they're like the new lead writer in this case, they're going to write in their bio, lead writer of Beyond Good and Evil 2 or such and such. Which is, for us as just regular consumers, we're just kind of like whatever's about it. But for them, I can kind of understand like writing. Honestly, I think for anybody, whenever you get like a new job and you want to put it into your bio, say you work at this new place, it does kind of increase the dopamine levels to say, hey, you now have this new role that you're responsible for. It looks nice on the Twitter handle. So can't necessarily blame her and other developers for following that trend. So let's add some context here. Beyond Good and Evil 2 was officially announced in 2017 at E3. The game will serve as a prequel to the original game with promises of being able to explore alone or with friends in its massive and ambitious world. So, okay, officially not a sequel, it's a prequel. Beyond that announcement, there's not been a lot of meaningful news since. We've gotten a lot of some cool concept art and another look at the game at E3 in 2018. That's the trailer, I think, that had that, the monkey that was like cussing a bunch, and there were like a speed chaser type thing through like this town with like water, and it was floating. It was actually not bad of a trailer. The last time we saw the game gave us a glimpse at Jade from the first game, seemingly as a villain. I do remember that. That was pretty interesting. But then again, it's a prequel. How's that going to work? Ubisoft initially planned for a beta of the game to be available at the end of 2019, but that never came to fruition. Beyond Good and Evil 2 also lost its director in 2020. Jesus, I didn't even know about that. Leaving the game's status even more up in the air. Since then, the game got a mention in Ubisoft's earnings report, confirming it was still around in some capacity. Then, earlier this year, a report came out saying the game was still in pre-production. The news of the game getting its lead writer, however, is a good step forward. Is it though? As that Thor meme from Thor Ragnarok is like, is it though? I'm sorry, but I feel like it's just stringing a lot of things here that I feel like so many of those assets could be put towards a brand new IP. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's kind of reminding me, of more recently of the Batgirl situation, where it's like you could have put that money towards something that at least you had some faith in releasing, and instead just pulling the rug from underneath them just to cancel the movie after spending all that money. Like, should Beyond Good and Evil 2 be canceled? It's an interesting little debate, but at least Batgirl didn't take 13 fucking years to develop. You know what I'm saying? It's a kind of a different beast. It's like, imagine if I was to work on a YouTube video, but I just kept delaying it and kept telling people about it to be like, hey, I'm still working on this video. It's like, well, then what's the point of just continuously talking about it? Like, just shut up, work on it, and start, show something when it's ready. And yeah, with Beyond Good and Evil 2, I kind of forgot that it was even happening. And I can't imagine that I'm the only one sharing that sentiment. And because of that, I feel like there should be a serious discussion over at Ubisoft or whoever's the main publisher here to really look at this game, and should it even be a worthwhile investment. I know a lot of people worked on it, but it's just been flipping so many things. And I know that this new lead writer just got her job, but I don't know. I just legitimately don't know what to make of this. But then again, it was around this time that it was announced that I actually bothered to even play the first game, and I enjoyed it. Didn't love it, but I liked it an awful lot. And it did pique my interest for a sequel, but it's just, I don't know. It's just so detached and so removed, and Ubisoft is nice. I feel like maybe if there was someone else overlooking the project that was not Ubisoft from a developer standpoint, I'd say it would be in better hands, because obviously, judging on recent statements, recent business decisions, recent games that they like to prioritize more. I mean, look at the way that they kind of overhauled and are now prioritizing Skull and Bones out of nowhere. Like, look at the way that game looks like now. that's kind of more telling of where Ubisoft's mindset really is at. Not a game like Beyond Good and Evil 2. I feel like maybe someone over there is trying Beyond Good and Evil 2 to be like the original Beyond Good and Evil, but Ubisoft is just like, yeah, but how can we make money off of this, like routinely, like with currencies and stuff? And there's just enough pushback that maybe that's just how much delay, and maybe it's like a 4D chess kind of move where, like, instead of, you know, pushing and pushing and pushing for this whole ordeal, like maybe there's contacts happening from these developers to be like, okay, I'm gonna quit, you're gonna come in here, try to push for this vision of the game, and if they don't have it, quit, but tell this other person, and just kind of chain link it in a way. And maybe that's how they're looking at this development cycle, and that's probably why it's taken so long to develop this game. But that's just a very tinfoil hat kind of theory as far as the upbringing of this game, and whether or not it's going to be seen the light of day, I don't know, but I'm not necessarily holding my breath. And for the last topic, I think I might have hinted at it on the last episode. It's the whole thing with Rockstar and the report written by Jason Schreier over at Bloomberg about GTA 6 and potential reports on the development of GTA 6, what's going to be coming in the game, and also the culture surrounding the way that Rockstar is pretty much developing the game. And I don't want to spend too much because, A, the Bloomberg report is actually rather long, as Jason Schreier often likes to do. He spares no expenses in writing and doing his research, and that's why he's one of the best in the business. But on top of that, it's also slightly old, which is why I kind of saved it here towards the tail end of the episode. But I did want to more or less kind of chime in a little bit on some things that have already been mentioned by a couple of other influencers and creators and commentators on Twitter, on YouTube, that have to do with the games, that have to do with gaming culture, with the gaming industry, and also just overall love the Grand Theft Auto games. Because, it's not putting it mildly that whenever something gets talked about on a very large-scale fashion or a legitimate way about the next Grand Theft Auto, it's kind of an event. Like, it's always turns into some form of event. Like, one thing that I know I keep referencing him, but hey, he's one of my favorite streamers, one of my favorite YouTubers, Jeremy, Gamer23. When he made his video talking about what was going down with Rockstar and how people are calling them that, they're going woke star, and, whether or not that's actually happening, or what's the speculation, or what's the controversy. He did mention one thing that just stuck with me an awful lot, that did make me go, yeah, whenever Rockstar puts out a trailer for a game, it doesn't necessarily even have to be Grand Theft Auto. It could also be Red Dead Redemption. It's funny because I was going to say another property. I would probably say maybe if they were to hypothetically ever do a Bully sequel, which is doubtful of it happening. But let's stick with the usual two suspects that always work, Red Dead and Grand Theft Auto. Whenever they would put out a trailer during the releases of those games, they would, with the original Red Dead Redemption 2, the second one, Red Dead 2, Grand Theft Auto 5, and then all the fucking iterations of Grand Theft Auto 5 that have since been ported and released. Whenever they release a trailer, it's always trending on Twitter. When that first trailer revealing Red Dead 2 back in like spring or summertime of 2017, it was like trending on Twitter and on YouTube's main page for like a week straight. Like you could not open those platforms, or even Instagram maybe, but mostly, predominantly Twitter and YouTube. You could not open those platforms without seeing it being pushed towards you. That opening Red Dead trailer, that very first one that just showed a bunch of landscapes, some voiceover by Roger Clark as Arthur, I think it was him. You see a quick glimpse of Arthur, and then you see the gang riding off in the distance, and then all of a sudden it just says Red Dead 2, and that is it. And that shit was trending. So rest assured that when GTA 6 gets its first trailer, that's only like a minute, probably just shows one character, the vista of whatever city it takes place in, and then the logo, it's going to go nuts all over social media, regardless of who you are, regardless of if you're even a gamer, which is why even leaks and rumors such as this revolving around GTA 6 and its development gets talked about the way that it does. the way that things are going, I kind of, like I said, echo mainly what others have said. So it's not going to sound brand new. And that's also another reason why I didn't want to spend too much time on this. The article from Jason Schreier states that one of the things that's being talked about as far as the development for GTA 6 is that it's going to be featuring a Latina protagonist. Latina female. So a Latina female protagonist. And so of course, people behind keyboards got upset on Twitter, calling it woke star, that they're going woke, they're getting, trying to be progressive and all this stuff. And I'm over here like, first of all, yeah, if you do a quick Google search, I can't remember who it was. I think it was Actman or somebody said that, yeah, if you do a quick Google search, technically speaking, in Grand Theft Auto, I think 2, right before we got into the 3D realm with 3, there's a selectable character, there's a playable character that you can choose in Grand Theft Auto 2 who is female and Latina. I can't remember her name, but she's technically, this whole thing about her being a female Latina being the first ever to grace a Grand Theft Auto game is technically not true. A contemporary one that, most people know of as officially a Grand Theft Auto game, the way that they know it by now with the most recent titles like GTA 4 and GTA 5, sure. But ever in the lineage of the history of the game, no, it's not a historic first as some articles are making it out to be. Does it affect the game? Absolutely not, because sure, she's going to be Latina and female, but what it really boils down to is the writing. If you can write her as a compelling, awesome character, boom. What movie just came out that has I was about to say Latina, a native female lead and kicks ass? The movie that everyone's talking about right now, Prey. Why? Because she's just a character trying to get shit done. That is it. They write her as a character first and as a checkbox second, if anything. That's why she works. That's why she's awesome. And if this character just so happens to be female Latina, but all in all, she's just she's just a protagonist, much like with any other protagonist, kind of like Nico, kind of like Franklin and Michael and even Trevor. They're just trying to fit into this grander picture that is the world of GTA, which already has kind of an interesting hook behind it as it is, according to the article as well. Apparently, she's going to be one of 2 playable characters, so they're going to be kind of stemming a little bit from the mechanic of GTA 5 where you get to switch between different characters, only this time it's going to be 2 instead of 3. But it's going to be apparently taking inspiration from Bonnie and Clyde. She's going to be the Bonnie to probably a dude who's going to be fitting in the Clyde role. So you're going to be able to swap between these 2 different characters. And that sounds cool. Like, if that's the angle as far as storytelling, as far as her character's motivation or her upbringing as a Bonnie and Clyde kind of inspiration, I'm down for that. That sounds perfect for the world of GTA. There's also rumors that it's going to take place in a fictionalized city in Miami. A lot of people are already speculating that it could be Vice City again. We'll see. But yeah, a lot of the stuff surrounding this female protagonist, I'm right there with a lot of, the vocal majority. It doesn't matter. I don't care. I'm still going to play the game. That doesn't affect me as much as this next segment or this next piece of news does, which is that one of the things coming from this article is that they are revamping a little bit of the workplace culture to being a little less frat boy, to be a bit more open and embracing of people's viewpoints and atmospheres and things like that. And of course, that is great. But what concerns me, like it concerns with an awful lot of people, is that I think it's a very an understatement to say that certain jokes from GTA 4 and GTA 5 will probably not see the light of day here in 2022 or 2024 or 5 when this game realistically does come out. So how are they going to circumnavigate that? Because one of the things that gives GTA that identity, that the flavor to make it different than your archetypal open world, because now open world games are a mile a minute. I mean, just ask fucking Ubisoft, just like we touched upon with a game like Beyond Good and Evil, or that article that we were talking about and what they're prioritizing. one of the reasons why Rockstar is Rockstar and why we look forward to their games is exactly what kind of envelope they're going to be pushing. What was the next thing that Trevor was going to do in GTA 5? What stakes were going to be pushed in very dark times and moments and very pivotal character moments in GTA 4? There's a certain storyline in GTA 4 where I was like, oh shit, it got heavy. That very reminiscent of the Red Wedding from Game of Thrones. Maybe not to that extent where they kill off that many characters, but a situation happens in GTA 4 that I remember, and I remember even as a younger kid when I was playing that game, like 18 or 19 years old, on my PS3 Slim, where I was like, oh shit, that just happened. Oh damn. And I knew that we were kind of beelining it here towards the ending credits of GTA 4, but are we gonna stray away from things like that because of the culture overhaul for the workplace? Sure, because people need to be comfortable at work. That's where we get their best work, where we get their best talents and their best just their best overall quality traits into their work, creatively, technically, ethically, all that good stuff. But as far as the actual content of the game from a writing standpoint, from a character development standpoint, I have no doubt that the game is going to be possibly a technical masterpiece as far as what they can handle graphically, mechanically, as far as like shooter mechanics, as far as intuitiveness with controls and things like that. At least I'm hoping that that's the direction that they're taking, because a lot of us can agree that some of that shooting in GTA 4 may not be the best. Some of it doesn't even feel all that great in GTA 5 or even Red Dead 2. In certain instances, not all across the board, but some things could be a little better, a little improved. And I have no doubt that they will be. But that's my main concern, along with everybody else's, is if I'm playing GTA 6 and I'm 5 hours in and there's nothing that is calling attention to the satirical and satirical kind of viewpoint that those prior games had, then I'm just playing another open world game. And you can, like I said, you can find those a mile a minute or a dozen a minute, whatever you want to call them. And that's my main worry. That's my main concern. And that's going to go ahead and do it for episode 2 of the 5th season of the DarkspiderCast. Something that did kind of cross my mind in the past couple of days is that, especially as we're kind of rolling in here in the final days leading up to my 31 year on this godforsaken planet, which means that, I'll be 31 next time you guys hear from me on the next episode. But beyond that, I was also thinking about how long it's been since I started the podcast in general, and that was actually in September of last year. So we're actually coming up on a year of the DarkspiderCast along with the niche channel. I'm still in the contemplating phase as far as what could be a good topic or a good thing to kind of mark that occasion. For the niche channel, I was thinking of doing a live stream of either playing some kind of Batman or Spider-Man centered game, or just talking to the chat, or I don't know. Like, there's different ideas for the niche channel that are a bit more on the concrete side. Things are a little bit on the looser side when it comes to the podcast, but we'll see. Maybe I'll have a guest. Maybe I'll have the Surface Assassin. I feel like he'll be the one, or maybe my girlfriend. I don't know. But guest is definitely a viable option. Other topics that could mark the occasion, as far as I don't know. I legitimately do not know, but rest assured that it's an occasion that is worth celebrating, and I definitely want to mark it with just something pretty substantial. In the meantime, though, guys, you guys know where to find me when I'm not either recording the podcast or creating content for the niche channel. Twitter and Instagram at DarkspiderDavid. I almost forgot him there. You can either search me up by simply just looking up at DarkspiderDavid or clicking the links in the description. That's where you're also going to be able to find the link for the website, the main podcast page if you're listening to this on the YouTube or official YouTube channel for the podcast, or if you guys want to check out the main channel, the niche channel for all things Batman and Spider-Man, which is doing phenomenally, and I cannot be appreciative and thankful enough. You guys can find that link in the description as well. Otherwise, guys, I bid you adieu. Thank you guys for listening all the way through here. Looking forward to this weekend, seeing what comes out of it, but more importantly, seeing how I can make the content better. And as we get a little closer here to the 1-year anniversary, ideas are gonna start percolating. In the meantime, stay humble, and I'll see you later.